In previous videos, I talked about the Carolina lupine, or the false lupine, and integrating that into the gardening scene or landscaping scene. And I've also mentioned propagating the plant by means of root division. However, one thing that I've always wanted to try to figure out how to do is how to propagate this plant by seed. Whenever I'd plant the seed outside in the fall, in the springtime, nothing would ever really come up. And I tried to put the seeds in pots and plant them inside during the winter time, and that didn't work either. So I thought that there must be something that I'm missing. And so this year I did a little bit more research into how to grow this plant from seed, and I finally got some really good results, and I'm really excited to share those results with you today. So the Carolina lupine plant, or the false lupine, of course, is not a true lupine. In fact, as opposed to the true lupines, this plant is actually toxic, but it is a native plant with gorgeous flower spikes, and it can attract some beneficial animals and beneficial insects, and it may also form some associations with rhizobia or mesorhizobia bacteria that can help to fix nitrogen in the soil. This plant also produces a really long taproot, which can go deep down into the soil, mine for nutrients, and break up soil compaction. And so it is my intention to use this plant more in the garden to help boost soil health with its decompacting abilities and potential nitrogen fixation capabilities, and then also to bring in the beneficial insects to help make this garden, this landscape, a little bit more resilient, a little bit more diverse. Alright, so what I did was essentially in the fall, once the seed pods of this plant had matured, they dried out, I harvested them, took the seeds out of the pods, and I stored them for over the winter in a container. And so in late February of 2024, in fact February 26th, I soaked the seeds in water. However, I made sure to boil the water first. So I brought the water to a rolling boil, and then I poured the water into a container of seeds, and I let them soak. And then over the course of the next few days to few weeks, even up to a month, as those seeds would begin to swell, I would pick them out and put them in pots of soil. There was actually the wine cap mushroom substrate soil that I used in the pots, and so I would put them in the soil. I wouldn't bury them too deep, and then I'd make sure to keep the soil as evenly moist as possible. And then a few weeks out from planting them in the soil, they would begin to sprout. Right, probably in the range of 2 to 4 weeks or so, those sprouts would begin to emerge from the soil. Right, and so at that point I made sure that they had an adequate light source. And then around April 14th to 15th, I planted some of these, the first batch of these seedlings of Carolina lupine outside in the garden. And we are expected to get a light frost maybe later this week, so I will make sure to get out there and maybe put some buckets or pots over them to protect them from any frost damage, as they are the first year seedlings, so they're pretty small and a bit delicate. Alright, so here I have planted the red cauliflower, or purple cauliflower, I mean. Some of the plants are larger than others. And what I'm thinking is, in between some of these plantings, I am going to plant some Carolina lupine seedlings. That would be these. And so note that, of course, this is not a true lupine. So it's not the one with the edible seeds. These seeds are actually quite toxic, and I think the plant as a whole generally is, this Carolina lupine plant, but it is a good nitrogen fixer. It's a native plant, a good plant for some pollinators, really beautiful yellow flower spikes that will flower later on in the season. Now these are young enough that it's going to be you know, a year or two or so before they flower, so they're definitely not going to flower this year. And these are perennial too, by the way, and they will form clumps, and then you can like divide them from there too. And I had been doing that initially with a plant that you know, a parent plant, but I want to try to diversify the genetics of this species as well in this landscape to make it more resilient. So I'm going to plant these out here in between, so the cauliflower will grow up this season and it will produce, and the Carolina lupine will stay small probably throughout this whole entire year, you know, developing its root system and establishing itself in its new place. And then over time these plants will continue to grow, and it'll be a way for me to get more perennial living roots in the soil year-round, and then I can grow like other crops, you know, around them and all that in years to come. Let's go ahead and see what this plant looks like. Doesn't look like there are any roots that are trying to work their way out, so this is not root bound. I know legumes, generally speaking, can be pretty fragile if you try to transplant them. That's why it's usually best to direct seed them, but with this Carolina lupine and its germination requirements, for now it kind of seemed a little easier to do it this way. So we'll just have to be gentle. So we can see the root structure. Most of it is all like congregated over there, over here in this corner. We can see some of the mycelium in here too from the wine cap mushroom substrate type soil that I used for this this potting, homemade potting mix. It was pretty much just all that. Gently put it in this hole. Yeah. And then I'll water this in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and plant the others right now, and then I'll start covering these up, well, watering them and covering them up then, and I'll probably mulch around them as well, along with the cabbage, so we get some nice grass clipping mulch here. So here we have the Carolina lupine now watered in and buried in between the cauliflower plants. Now I want to make a note too here where even up to almost a month after putting the seeds in the water to soak before planting them, and so they'd been in this water for about a month, and when they swelled at that point and I transplanted them into pots, I still had really high, really good germination rates. In fact, they were a lot better than I expected. So evidently these seeds are pretty rot resistant and you know, very resilient when it comes to long soaking times. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video on the Carolina lupine, or false lupine, and propagating it by seed. It's a process that can be kind of easy and straightforward as long as you know what to do. So thank you for checking out this video. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.